Hi, everyone. My name is Brad Groux. I'm the founder and CEO of Digital Meld. Welcome to the Start Small, Think Big podcast, a podcast to help you with automation, AI, technology, all the other sort of things that help business grow.
And I'm Carrie Hundley, Chief Growth Officer. We're excited to bring you practical insights you can apply immediately, regardless of the size or stage of your business.
Yeah, I'm Robert Groux. I'm the CTO at Digital Meld, and my role here is to demystify and simplify AI automation for our clients, and hopefully, help the listeners here fully understand and grasp this AI space.
So we started a company about 18 months ago, and over that time, we've been helping B2B customers, primarily mid-market, grow to be enterprises. And what we like to say is we like to help businesses increase their growth with not necessarily having to increase their headcount. So we help you streamline operations. Some folks don't even have their processes even documented to automate and improve upon. And as we've gone through this, we've just seen there's so much going on in the AI space, in the automation space, and folks just don't really know where to start. And so our goal with this is literally just to start small, think big. Just take those little iterative steps every single day.
Yeah, a lot of businesses assume automation and AI are only for big corporations with massive budgets. That's a complete myth. We totally believe and embrace that technology is the great equalizer, and you shouldn't have to have an sized company or pockets to have enterprise quality systems and solutions.
Yeah, and I think the things that I've seen with businesses is like they think AI is just going to solve every problem they have. And I think in the future, that may be the case. But right now, what I like to focus on is just let's start with the smallest thing possible with each business and show true ROI as soon as possible. Because as soon as you're getting user buy-in, that's huge. Because without the user buy-in, without the user embracing AI, a lot of this stuff isn't possible for us to implement. So that's what I like to focus on, quick wins and try to build momentum.
Yeah, and our goal is to help you utilize products and services that will enhance your life. Robert likes to say, death by a thousand SaaS products. We don't want to do that. We want to kind of streamline your operations and let you reduce your footprint rather than make it larger. And the goal of AI and automation, obviously, is also to free up your life so you can focus on the things that are actually really important. Get some hands-off keyboard time to where you can have that customer interaction, where you can increase your business, where you can grow, where you can work with your teams and work cross-function within teams. A lot of times with businesses, everybody's really siloed because they don't have enough time in the day, right? They're just putting out fires all day. So our goal, obviously, is just to start small and help you grow a little bit, be more efficient, and kind of find new ways forward. I think now that we've kind of introduced what our ideas for the podcast are, this is going to grow over time. It's going to pivot over time, as with the recent announcements of like DeepSeek and Claude 3.7 and all these other sorts of things that come out. The ideas are going to change quite frequently. And what was right one week may change the next week. So we hope you keep coming back to the podcast and learning more because we're learning more as well. I think the big thing to remember is, now the days of having a college degree and working at the same company for 40 years and doing the same job, those are kind of over. We're in a lifelong learning scenario now, folks. So if you're not a lifelong learner, we hope we can convince you to be, because AI is going to make that really, really important going forward. And hopefully we can give you a little roadmap to help you along the way. And as we learn as well, because again, we're trying to figure this out as we go too. We're not faking it till we make it, but we're doing the best we can. With that said, a little bit about myself. My name is Brad Groux. I have 25 plus years experience in enterprise IT specifically. I've been in consulting about the last 15 years, spent some time at Microsoft. My favorite job was at NASA. So if you see all the stuff in the back, and when I was about 21 years old, born and raised in Houston, Texas. So a huge NASA fan, huge space nerd. And so a lot of the conversations and stuff we have may be, utilizing that, trying to grow. We tell people all the time, we're SpaceX, not Boeing. It's just constant iterative improvements. Every now and then we may blow something up, but hopefully we learn from that.
Yeah. And my background, I've been in IT technology my whole life, but from a work life experience for the last 15 years, I come from the data center, server engineering, IT manager, director of IT background. So I've managed IT departments from the size of 10 all the way down to the size of 3. And I've done a bit of consulting for a startup, and I've seen cloud migrations, done M&A transactions. What I really like to do is focus on recently business process automation, helping people do the things that they don't like so that they can focus on the things that actually matter for them and their business. And so I've led major projects across multiple industries, oil and gas, healthcare, construction. So I really feel technology shouldn't add complexity. It needs to be, it's going to solve real life problems effectively. That's what I think it's here for. So really passionate about AI, Azure, the cloud environment, AWS, all the infrastructure things. So that's my background.
My background is more traditionally business. I double majored economics and finance, did not have technology necessarily on my roadmap until I graduated and went to work for a global IT consulting firm. And it really opened my eyes to the importance of the translation layer between the technologists who are, have deep expertise in that area, but not as much familiarity with business in general, much less your business. So starting as a business analyst at a large company like that really let me understand best practices, but also the importance and the impact that you can have being that translation layer. So for me, I've always mostly been in tech adjacent roles since then, across multiple sizes of businesses, anything from, family run businesses all the way to global enterprises. And for me, it's really rewarding to see the aha moments, to see the wins, and to effectively drive change and help companies capture and keep competitive advantage through technology. So, that's me. I bring a holistic background and a strategic approach to growth that helps folks leverage what they have and continue to grow into the future.
I think the common denominator between the three of us is that we love to enable people to succeed and improve their lives. That's our overall goal. We love to learn. We love to help others learn. And we'll continue to do that. The panel will actually change from week to week. This will be a weekly podcast, probably released on Thursday and Friday, still figuring all that stuff out. And it is in video format and audio format as well. So if you're listening to us on audio, just know that we have video. It'll be on YouTube and the other platforms as well. So we'll be having guests, and we'll have expert interviews and case studies and practical advice, and follow trends in AI and automation. And then hopefully we give you a little bit of foundation every week to just improve upon how to approach this within your business. The journey to AI is a marathon. It's not a sprint. We can run along with you. We can do all the work for you, or we can help train you up to get you to be able to run that marathon too. And that's our overall goal of this. It's just to kind of, we found out we're finding practical advice every single day. And so why not share that with the world? Because we feel that if there's a higher need for AI, there's going to be a higher need for us, and to put good things out there and good things will come back to us. That's our overall goal with this podcast. And so there is also, an accompanying newsletter as well. So we'll give you some nuggets in that. And you can find that on our LinkedIn page. We'll share all those links at the end. But for now, I think we can kind of get on to the crux of what this podcast is all about. And that's business process improvement, which includes AI. And so, Carrie, do you want to give us a couple of minutes on why business process improvement is important, and why having business processes even documented? A lot of businesses don't even have it that far. So can you expand on that a little bit for us?
Absolutely. Having business processes that are outside of people's brains or local machines and into actual charted processes that are available and accessible and optimizable by the entire organization is super important for a variety of reasons. Let's start with the basics. It's hard to manage what you can't measure, right? So if you want to look at a process, make sure that it's optimized. It's hard to do that with it living in everyone's brains. Also, just from a business continuity standpoint, right? If someone's sick or retires or any of those things, those are the obvious reasons. But for the theme of this podcast, why it's really important to what we do and how we help our clients every day is that's the first step. Everyone wants to get to the shiny object at the end of the rainbow, which is AI, but there's really a journey to get there. And if you don't have the right foundation, you won't be able to, right? So it's not a magic wand. You have to actually, so that starts with your processes. And so they first have to be documented before you can thoroughly analyze them and optimize them. And when we're optimizing, we're not just doing that from a general business standpoint, we're doing it on the journey to AI. So each step in a process is a potential area for automation, for data capture. It's an endpoint that allows more meaningful use of that process and the data that it captures. So that's the first place to start. And we can't begin to build all the really cool bells and whistles if we don't have that to begin with.
Yeah, it's great. That's great, Carrie. Thank you. Yeah. So AI is all about your data, right? Like AI is very personal. I think you've all probably used ChatGPT or one of the other solutions out there. Whenever you first start using it, it's basically just a glorified search engine, right? Until it learns more about you, until you feed it context, until you upload it documents to kind of ask it questions about. And so that's what we try to tell folks is like, we can have an idea of what's best for your business. We work with construction and engineering firms a lot. And so we know about 70% of the processes that most construction and engineers have. Construction and engineering firms have from a project management perspective and those sorts of things. But the last 30% is the secret sauce of that organization and what makes that organization special. And that's the difference. There's no magic solution for AI. AI is just another tool in your toolbox. If someone's telling you that it's a turnkey solution, they're just flat out lying to you, for lack of a better term. So just be very wary of that. There's a lot of snake oil salesmen out there. I tell folks that remember the first iPhone. That's where we are with AI right now. The first apps on the iPhone. You had the cigarette lighter, you had the beer you could drink, you had the, Flappy Bird type games and things. We're still in the very infancy of AI. That's not saying that there's not great ways that you can utilize AI to increase your ROI and those sorts of things now, but just know that the really great things with AI are coming in the future, but you have to start that journey now to get prepared, especially your data, as Carrie was talking about, to get your data to where it needs to be to utilize AI to its full extent. Robert, talking about that, could you just give us a few minutes on like how you can make AI more accessible and some of those easy, quick wins you were talking about, starting with those simpler things?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest one for me, I actually made a LinkedIn post yesterday about it. We've implemented Microsoft 365 Copilot. And just so, the audience knows, there's multiple versions of Copilot. I don't think Microsoft does anybody any favors with their naming schemes, but the one I'm talking about is one you subscribe to after having like a business premium license or E3 license, E5 license, and it has the chatbot functionality like ChatGPT. But I think where the true value is, and just something as simple as creating meeting notes, I mean, the value that brings and the fact that I don't have to sit here and focus on typing for every single meeting and I can solely focus on the discussion at hand, I can't even comprehend the value that brings. Even if it only saves you, even if you only record one meeting a month or one meeting a week, it's still worth the $30 a month that fee is. And so that's what I tell people, like, let's start like that simple. Let's implement that, because you don't have to get this huge product that's going to do everything for you. I think that's what everybody wants. But like Carrie was saying, you got to start really small and go base level, even to recording meetings. Like that's where we need to start. So I advise people, like, if you're not using any LLMs like ChatGPT, Gemini, all the big names out there, like, you need to start embracing that, because that's not going away. The cat's out of the bag there. So that's personally, whether it's in your professional life, personal life, I use it every day. I have 3 kids. I have them use it all the time, just because that's going to be the future. And if you're not doing just simple meeting recordings, getting over the fact that all of your meetings should be recorded, that's a big thing I know a lot of business struggle with, because there's liability, the security aspect of it. Microsoft and all these other partners, they have tools built in to kind of ring all that in. So don't let that stop you if that's your worry, is you're worried about stuff leaking out, or data, somebody seeing a recording that they shouldn't have seen. The built-in settings and security protocols that like Microsoft has, for example, it's pretty good. It's not perfect. It needs some catering, but it's pretty good.
I appreciate you calling out that misconception, Robert, because it's true. Like, majority of, as Brad always says, the majority of Fortune 500 companies are in Microsoft and these other big tools that we're all using. So trust me, the security is there. There's some additional things we can do on the back end or the sides, if you will, to bolster that. But certainly that's a misconception. I think another one that's really big is that automation is too complex or expensive. And in reality, that's not the case. Simple automations, as Robert's talking about with the note taking, can free up hours every week. And that makes a huge impact, on efficiency, on profitability, also on the workplace morale, right? We have a client that's won a lot of awards of being a great place to work. It's like kids that are coming out of college, like their expectation of technology and efficiency inside of companies has already, like Robert said, the cat's out of the bag there. There's so many ways that beginning down this journey can positively impact you. But on the flip side of that coin, there's so many ways that not starting down this journey will negatively impact you. And it's going to be hard to make up the delta. So it feels overwhelming, but to understand that that's the whole point of this podcast, is helping you digest and understand that you can put one foot in front of the other and start to gain incredible efficiencies. And beyond that, just with the note taking, the ability to be more present with your team or your clients, because you're not voraciously taking notes the whole time. The aspect of not missing anything that's important, even from a liability standpoint. Let's say you're in an industry where if your client makes a request and it's missed, or having that all documented, the ability to go back and do things with the notes in a more implementable way. There's just, the effects are massive. So one foot in front of the other, it can be done. And that's what we're here to help you do.
Yeah, I think I want to touch on something that Carrie just mentioned that I probably should have brought up, but didn't. Like the liability thing. We have this problem as consultants. I think every industry has this problem where a client will make a demand, but we can't really remember what was actually said and what we promised, maybe on a meeting as an example. And what AI can do is it can help you find that information really easily. So like with Copilot 365, you can search, meetings and use the meeting context and chat with it. So if you have a meeting recording, you can pull up Copilot for that meeting and chat with it and say, hey, what was the thing that this customer said? It was, at the start of the call. And I mean, it's pretty good. I've used this myself for putting in proposals. So like if Carrie does a meeting with a client and we need to put something together, I don't have to be attending that meeting necessarily. I can get all of the information I need just by prompting the recording. And so she did touch on like how this helps you save time in your business life. But I'll tell you, as a father of 3, like having AI has saved me time to allow me to get closer to my family, because instead of sitting and typing an hour-long email, I can now do that in 15 or 20 minutes. And so I think that's something also, like this also affects your personal life outside of business too. I mean, I think this podcast, like we want to focus on the business, but also like to help you personally, because AI is here for all aspects of your life, I think. So
yeah, you both touched on a couple of like key topics that I think are really important: security and governance, and then also ethics within AI. We'll cover that deeply, basically every week. We'll touch on it a little bit because that's so important. But I tell folks all the time, 90% of Fortune 500 companies are Microsoft 365 customers, Microsoft 365 and Azure, so Microsoft Cloud. And to think that you would maybe know security better than them is pretty crazy. The Department of Defense utilizes Azure and Microsoft 365. So I think from the security and governance perspective, like Robert was saying, the tools are in place there. And especially for like Copilot, you can get those tools in place. We can roll out Copilot to a mid-sized business in 2 to 3 weeks. And that's with some user training through like Microsoft Viva and things like that. So it's a very, very easy one to knock out of the park. Carrie mentioned the education aspect of it. If you don't think the best college students right now are utilizing AI to make their lives easier, you're greatly confusing yourself. We will have a great education point. We will have a great educational component to this show, mainly because, my best friend just became the assistant dean of AI at Texas A&M University's Mays School of Business. He'll be a guest within the next few weeks, because what they are actually doing is building AI to every single one of their paths. And so they're going to be offering certificates to people who have graduated from there and to come back and to get their AI certificate to add to there. And there will be a minor to every single one of their there'll be a minor to every single one of their degree plans. And so AI is coming, whether you want it or not. And so you can either get in front of it or you can be prepared. Or you can be prepared or you can be behind. And our goal is, again, to hopefully remove some of the stigma from that perspective. And I think the big thing is, whenever you bring someone on to help you with your AI journey, also make sure that education and security are both a key aspect of that as well.
I think one of the points I was going to make was getting business accountants, people doing the actual business work, getting their input, we're technologists. Like, we're technologists. We don't know everything about every aspect of business, right? Like, I come from the IT background. I would like to think that I know a lot of like an accountant's day in the life of and helping them automate their process. But I think what most internal IT groups that are going to be implementing this stuff struggle with is being able to focus on what's important for the end user while also focusing on what's important for them, right? Because they got to take care of their data center or their cloud environment or their cybersecurity suite. And so getting the end user empowered and showing them what's possible, because really the power user is, I've said it before, but it's so big in this whole process, because they're the ones that can actually build these things. You don't have to be somebody from a technical background. AI has made it so it's not 100% perfect yet, right? There's still a lot of catering that has to happen. You can't just go prompt ChatGPT. It's not going to solve every problem for you right away. It just gets you to that next step. Whereas if you didn't have coding experience before, if you didn't know how to program or scripts, PowerShell, a lot of this stuff was really difficult for the everyday person. And so I think getting to the audience, you, the listener, the accounting person, the person in operation, boots on the ground, the ideas that you bring to your IT group are going to help your business. And I think that needs to be said. It's not just for technology, really smart guys out in Silicon Valley to solve all these problems. Like, you can start solving these problems now. And we've seen it in businesses today.
Yeah, and I'll say Microsoft coined a term several years ago when they released their Power Platform, which is a no-code solution, which we'll talk about as well. The entry level to automation is probably Microsoft Power Automate. You probably don't realize you have a license to it now, but if you have Microsoft 365, you have that. So that's one of the ways we'll get to in the coming weeks. It's citizen developer. So the goal is for the everyday person to have the power to enable themselves. There are some things when we get security and governance with shadow IT and things like that, but we'll discuss those topics later. Just know that you should be empowered. And again, I think everybody's going to need to know a little bit about scripting and how object-oriented programming works and like those basic sort of things. And it shouldn't scare you because now you have a tool like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot to help step you through that. I'm not a developer, but I've actually written some really great applications recently because of the help from these tools. And so I think the big thing is just step into the unknown, put yourself out of your comfort zone. That's the only way we really grow, right? I think that's the overall goal is just it is really important to get the perspectives of the folks that we're in business development as much as we are technologists. We say technology is a great equalizer, but at the end of the day, we can't know all these sort of ways that you can utilize these tool sets. And we learn new ways to use them every week. I'll be completely honest with that. Again, we work construction engineering a lot, oil and gas, very large companies, very large projects, and just hearing and talking to people, we have what we call stakeholder meetings. And so we understand how they utilize these tools and how they utilize their business workflows.
I think one of the other misconceptions is that I think we brought it up at least, earlier in the podcast that you need to have this huge organization with data scientists, data engineers. Like we work with businesses from 5 employees to 1,000. Now, we're not going to help you automate your 5-person business where you can scale down to 1 person. Again, it's all about empowering your people because these small companies, and I've worked for them, and everybody wears 1,000 hats. And if they could just take off maybe 10 or 20 of those hats, like the amount of time that'll buy them, it's huge. It'll really help that business because these businesses, most of them don't want to scale up past a certain headcount. And so you don't need it to solve all your problems. You just need it to solve some of those problems. So keep that in mind. Anybody listening, just because you have a 10 or 20, 50-person company, like there's a space for it. I brought it up before, recording meetings, just chatting with an LLM, Copilot or ChatGPT, like training your users how to use that. That's empowering. And even if it saves just 30 minutes to an hour a day, I mean, that's 30 minutes to an hour a day. They could be working on something else that's maybe more important.
Yeah, I think, Carrie, that brings up a good point. Maybe you can touch base on, but how leadership enablement is really important, but also how the everyday worker can actually help to convince their leadership within their organization that these are tools that they should be looking at. Can you touch base on that?
Absolutely. So I'd argue that in a small organization, some of the tools like note-taking, automatic note-taking, Copilot, things like that is even more important because you are lean and that no one has a bunch of fluff in their day or their workload, right? So the ability to alleviate some of the menial tasks, increase accuracy, increase efficiency, and then the ability to be more strategic because you have better intel, even from your own meetings, right? I would argue that it's just as important or more important in small organizations than that particular aspect is in a big organization. So you can always find things that are going to be super applicable and quick wins and immediate ROI. Some of the journey to AI is not immediate ROI. The ROI is huge once you arrive there, but in your business, in your workflow, in your team, there's absolutely a way to capture small wins. And I think being proactive about that, educating yourself and bringing that to your leader, your team, your business. Everyone's busy. So maybe they thought about these things, but they haven't had the time to dive in or figure out where to start unpacking that. If you can be that resource, be that champion inside your business, not just for yourself, for your team, for your organization as a whole, I think that that's genuinely really well received. And especially in a time where leaders are hearing about this every which way, right? All the organizations that they're in, their fellow leaders that they have, that they golf with or whomever, right? So everyone knows that this is something they need to dive into. If you can be the person that starts down that path and helps lead the rest of your team, that's a huge, huge win for everyone.
Yeah, for any new technology to succeed, you need champions within the organization, right? You need people who are passionate about it and want to see it grow and want to see it adopted within the organization. And you need to have the belief that this can make that happen. And so the first thing to do would be to educate yourself to make sure that you're kind of looking at the right directions, and hopefully we can guide you on that path of like those easy wins. But for the most part, we are a small business. We're hoping we grow to be a large business, but for now, we've been around about 18 months and literally nearly everything we do, we touch with AI. That's writing emails, that's business proposals, that's contracts, that's actually delivering our solutions and things like that. Like, we're utilizing AI every day, and we tell our customers that. And they're getting a better product that we're delivering because of that, because we're able to actually dive into the details more, talk to more stakeholders. It just frees up our time that would be normal menial tasks. Again, we always say leadership enablement is the single most important thing to success within an organization when it comes to a new tool set or a new platform, and that doesn't really change. But that doesn't mean that you can't start as that first leader. First person to actually stand up and do those sorts of things is actually pretty brave and taking a leap of faith. So hopefully you'll give yourself the information to defend yourself against the doubters and those sorts. But as long as you're utilizing it every day, you're going to be your work's going to increase, and so people are going to be like, hey, what's that person doing? How are they being so successful? How are they getting things done that they weren't normally getting done? And you can just have those conversations around the water cooler and make a difference.
Yeah, and I'll say, if you're a skeptic, I would really advise you to chat with us, ask questions. I think that's the big. I know a lot of people personally, and also, I mean, just in my personal circle of people, just very skeptical of AI, don't think it's going to really do much, or don't think it's even doing much now. And when I tell people AI helps me write emails, like, it's like some people look at you like, oh, it's like you're cheating on a test or something. And it's just like, no, I'd rather focus on building things than spending 2 or 3 hours of my day checking my inbox like I used to, meticulously organizing all of my emails and files and folders. Like, everybody has a different perspective. I think people that are skeptical, that's a good thing to be. I mean, you shouldn't ever just totally buy in on something unless you truly believe it. Even for me today, a lot of what I see in the AI space, instantly I'm skeptical. So I'll say, if you're listening to this and you're saying to yourself, like, these guys are crazy, they're just talking out of their bottom here, like, totally, that's a good thing to think. And, please interface with us, ask questions, tell us how you feel about it, because you may change our minds on certain topics. But looking at this from a skeptic view is not a bad thing.
I'll just add, when we say that we want your questions, we want engagement, I think we've all been in the scenario where that's exciting and you try for that and then you get crickets on the other side. That's not going to be the experience that you have with us, because we've had that similar frustration ourselves with organizations and things that we're a part of. But also, while we already had the podcast and the upcoming newsletter and everything slated, it's been really confirming as we're at events, or, Brad and I regularly do complimentary lunch and learns for our clients or prospective clients, because again, we feel that strongly about the educational component. We understand that you can't be making these decisions within your organization if you aren't educated and don't have the ability to gain that knowledge and to ask questions and to try to poke holes and make sure that you have the right partner. Because again, it's a journey. So you should be very cognizant of choosing the right people and the right technology and ensuring that you can march down a path towards success and not go bing, bang, boom and hope you don't fall off the cliff, as happens with so many technology implementations, right? So it's been really, really great to hear, from business leaders, especially, I know enough to be dangerous. Brad and Robert know a lot more, but to hear people tell Brad regularly the ability to just be able to pick someone's brain. Like, sure, I saw an article or I heard a soundbite, and that's great, but then what? What's the next step? And you don't go from that to signing a blind contract, right? You need to be able to unpack some of those things. And this allows us to do that with more people while we're out and at a lot of events. And we do that regularly as much as we can. We're using technology, again, to reach more people and to help disseminate information and really allow this tool to be the great equalizer that we know it is.
Yeah, and you both bring up great points. I think you should be a skeptic. There are a lot of snake oil salesmen out there. There are a lot of promised solutions that would be turnkey. And I think we're just not there yet. So trust but verify is what you should always do. That includes within your organization as well. But it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to poke and prod. And again, I think that's the big thing. If we don't have the answers for those, we'll let you know as soon as possible that we'll get you an answer. That's the key point from that perspective, is we'll get you an answer. And if you just would like to help on how to, not just on the AI solutions and tools or where to start, but how to even help convince your business leaders, or how to convince or win others within your organization, we're happy from that perspective too, because we are getting insights from dozens of customers and several hundred people a week at events. And so we are hearing other ways that folks are utilizing these tool sets. And so we're garnering a great collection of responses and pass forward. And that's why, again, we want to hear from you too, because we want to get your perspective. So that helps us grow our knowledge bank as well. It takes a village, right? And again, AI is going to revolutionize the world and business especially, but at the same time, it takes that personal connection and personal touch. It takes a village, and that's not going to change. we're just all going to have a lot more time to do the things we actually care about instead of focusing on the menial tasks that we wish we could have automated years ago. And so I guess that kind of introduces us to the next aspect of this conversation is, Carrie, can you touch on like an invitation to the audience so we can get feedback and have them become part of this?
Absolutely. We really want this to be a conversation, not just a podcast. So we encourage you and implore you to send us your biggest automation and AI questions. What's holding you back? What do you want us to cover in future episodes? Drop us a message on LinkedIn or a comment wherever you're listening. We'll even feature some of your success stories in the future episodes. So please share what's working for you as well.
Yeah. And so I think the call to action from here is just please get involved if you'd like. I'm Brad Groux, BradGroux. I'm literally the only one in the world that I know of. Robert Groux, there's a few more of him, but he's the one you'll find on the digital footprint. But so we're really easy to find. Carrie Hundley is on LinkedIn as well. If you just search on LinkedIn, you'll be able to find us. But digitalmeld.io is the easiest way to find us. And then at digitalmeld or digitalmeld.io and all the different services and things. And so Digital Meld, just so you know, is a play on the term digital convergence, which Bill Gates talked about in the 1994 Playboy interview. We'll get down to that later, but that's I came up with that name about 15 years ago, and it kind of stuck. And it really is more important now than ever, right? Like technology is becoming more and more ingrained with everyday aspects of our lives, and so it's something that again, I have my 72-year-old mother utilizing Microsoft Copilot, and I think you can too. And like Robert says, he has his toddlers doing it. So it's the spectrum spans decades. And so I think from that point, we hope that you follow us. Again, we're going to try to publish this every week. We know it's really important to keep on that schedule. It'll probably be later in the week, Thursday or Fridays. We haven't decided that yet. But for that point, you can find us where all the big podcasts are: Spotify, Apple, Google. You'll find us. Again, this is a video podcast as well, so you can watch it on YouTube or LinkedIn. We'll share it on LinkedIn and various other platforms that support video, such as Spotify.
Add, if you've ever either sent a request to a podcast and it wasn't answered, or you thought, man, there's a cool topic, but I don't want to take the time to send the message because the likelihood it's going to be responded to or actually talked about is small. I'd encourage you to throw that out the window, because we really want engagement, and we really will be monitoring that. And obviously the earlier on, the less engagements requests will be coming in. So I encourage you, get in there early. Like let's hear what you're looking to hear about, and we'll go ahead and discuss that.
I think obviously we all work for the same company. I want to call out, like, we have these discussions internally just together for like sometimes hours on end. And one of the main reasons why we started this is because we do want this to be an open forum. This is an open discussion, not just to grow Digital Meld, but just to get information out to people, because what we have found is there's not a lot of practical advice right now. It's just a lot of, here's the newest and latest and greatest things. And so I know a lot of people may think like, hey, we're just kind of pitching you our business and you just come and buy all of our ideas. And yeah, that's maybe a small piece of it, but really, like, we want to provide value to everyday people, and not even just business owners, but everyday people.
Yeah, I'll say, I'll close it up by saying that me starting this podcast it's a selfish aspect, because I can't shut up about it. Like I keep trying, I can't shut up about it. I love the technology. I love the way it improves lives. I love the fact that there's people in Africa who have all the access to all the data and all the information that the largest companies in the world do. And if that guy puts in the work and has the idea and goes through the hustle, then he can compete at that level. And that's the beauty of all of this. And like, I just want to learn more. I want to learn more. And I know I don't know it all. I may act like I do from time to time, but I think the biggest thing is, at this point, you kind of have to fake it till you make it, because you have to have confidence in your oneself. And that's one thing we can't teach you, is confidence in oneself. But I'll tell you, if I can do it, you can do it. And Robert and Carrie can do it as well. You can do it. And so we hope that you take that leap of faith and you kind of invest in yourself and invest in these technologies to help separate yourself. Because again, more and more folks are using these tools every single day. It's just a tool in your tool belt. It's no different than, a construction guy who uses a nail gun instead of a hammer and nails. It just speeds up your aspect a little bit, frees up your time to focus on the details, right? To improve upon those sorts of things. And that's our overall goal. And so with that said, I think we'll leave it there, and we hope you join us next week. Thank you for joining the Start Small, Think Big podcast, brought to you by Digital Meld.